Hello, welcome to Shark Finger. It's Shadow here, and today I'll be walking you through making as simple of a game as I can think of. The entire game is you roll a ball around and collect 10 pickups, which act like coins in a Mario game. When you pick up each one, it prints your score to the console down at the bottom, and when you've collected all 10, it prints you win to the console. So let's get into it. First we have to create a scene, so we need to click 3D scene here. Then we need to create an empty node to keep our scene tree organized and to store our environment objects inside of. So we're going to click this plus here, search for node 3D, click create. And then we are going to double click this node and rename it to environment. Now we're going to add another child node. Again, click the plus, this time search for CSG box 3D. Click create, and this will be our floor, so I'll rename it to floor. Then we want to hit R to change to the scale tool, scale it down so that it is somewhat flat, and then scale it wider and longer. I'm going to scale it to about 5 by 5. So about there, so that it looks like a big flat square. You can move around in the scene by holding right click, moving your mouse around and pressing WASD, or by scrolling up and down the zoom. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to make sure we're in the inspector. We are going to click use collision, and then go to material, click empty, click the new standard material, and now we have a material applied to the floor. Next we want to click the sphere, go to the albedo tab, click color, and change the color to whatever you want. I'm going to do a blue color. Click out of it, right click the sphere again, click save as, and name it whatever you want. I'm going to name mine blue to keep it simple. Now, make sure you have environment selected, create another CSG box. This one is going to be a wall. Now we want to scale it so that it is shorter, thinner, and as wide as the floor. After that is done, click use collision, drag the material you made before to the material slot, and then press W to change to the position tool, move it up, and move it to one of the ends. Then we want to duplicate it with Control D and move it to the other end. We want to duplicate it again, but this time we want to go to the transform section here, change its Z position to 0, and rotate it on the Y-axis 90 degrees. After that, we want to move it to the left end, and then duplicate it once more and move it to the right end. And that is our environment. So now we need to save. I'm just going to name it scene. And then we want to click play. When we first click play, it'll do this pop-up, so just do select current. And as you can see, we can't see anything. So, to fix that, we need to create a camera 3D. And then we want to position it so that it is back and above and angled down on the environment. And to preview how it looks, click this preview here. I think that's good. So I'll leave it there, save the scene, click play again, and we can now see our scene, but it is quite dark. So we need to add a light. I'm going to give a directional light, which gives all direction, or lights up everything from a direction. So create, I'm going to angle it down and a bit over. Now save the scene again, click play, and we can now see our environment, and it's all lit up. Now we need to go to make a player. So we'll start by creating a rigid body 3D. And let's rename that to player. Then, this rigid body doesn't have any colliders or anything, so we need to give it a collision shape 3D and set the shape to be a sphere. Now it has a collider, but we can't see it. So let's give it a CSG sphere 3D, if I can type it correctly. There. And now we can see our player is a ball. We want to move it up a bit so that it's not in the floor. Save it. Then go to Solver, change max contacts to 3, and turn on contact monitoring. This will be important for when we make the pickups. Now, click Add Script, or Attach Script. Create the script, you can name it what you want. I'm going to call it Player, and we can delete everything here. First, we need a place to store how fast we want the player to move, so let's give it constant speed equals 10.0. Now we need a vector 3 to store our movement in, so var movement semicolon vector 3. Now we need to make sure we get our input as often as possible, so we'll write a function physics process underscore delta. Now this function is called once every, it's called 60 times a second, which is once every physics tick, which is good for anything to do with physics. So inside we'll get our movement for moving forward and back, but we need to set that up first. So let's go to Project, Project Settings, Input Map, and give us some new input actions. So let's do move forward to move forward, move back to move back, and you can add it by either pressing Enter or clicking Add, move left, and move right. Then we can click this plus to bind whatever key we want to it. So I'm just going to do W for forward, S for back, A for left, and D for right. So then we can close this, go back to our script, and we want to give our forward and back input for the Z direction. So we will go movement.z equals input.get axis move forward move back. Now what this function does is it'll return, when we press the key for move forward, it'll return -1, and when we press the key for move back, it'll return +1. Now with how we have it oriented, -1 will be forward and +1 will be back. Now we need to do the same for left and right. So movement.x equals input.get axis move left and move right. Now, getting the input is one thing, but we need to apply it as a force to the rigid body to roll the ball. So we need to apply central force, movement, and then we want to control how fast it goes, so we will multiply that movement by speed. Now, if you save the script and hit play, and you start pressing the buttons to move, you should see you can move the ball around. You can roll it around however you want. Now, for the last step, we need to make some pickups. So let's start by getting rid of this. Create a node 3D to keep our pickups in. Let's rename that to pickups. Then we need a CSG box. You can use any of the CSG shapes here, but I'm just going to use a box to keep it simple. Let's scale it down to be small. Let's change our scale to 0.25, and because I'm doing it this way, it'll change all 3 axes. I'm going to move it up and over a bit. Then I'm going to tell it to use collision, give it a new material, you can again change the color however you want. I'm going to go for something similar to gold. I think that's good. Now, we need to go to the Node tab here, go to Groups, and give it a Pickup group. Finally, don't forget to rename the object to Pickup so that you know what it is. And now let's duplicate it so that there are a few around. I'm going for at least 10 and moving them to wherever I feel like it needs some. 9, 10. Okay. Now, back in the player script, we need a variable to store our score in, so we need to write var score equals 0. Then we need a function to check when the player hits something if it is a pickup object. So we will do function on body entered and pass it a variable called node of a node type. Next we check if it is in the pickup group, so if node.isInGroup. Now it is very important that your spelling and capitalization of this are the exact same, otherwise it will not work. And if that is true, we want to add a point to score, destroy the pickup, so node.queue_free, and print our score to the console. And I said before we would give the player a message for if they reached all 10. So we need to check if score is greater than or equal to 10, then we print debug you win to the console. Finally, we need to tie the signal for when the player hits something to this function. So we will go player, click on, make sure you're in the Node tab, click on signals, body entered, connect, click connect, and now if we run it, I'll move this up so that you can see, when we hit a pickup, it should be printing to, that's what I was missing. I forgot to give it score here. So it should be, as you can see here, it is printing the score, and if we collect all of them, you can see it displays the message "you win" at the bottom. Anyways, now that you have a working game, feel free to play around with it however you want. Though bumping up the speed of the player might be fun to mess around, and it also might be fun to mess around with making an obstacle course to get all the pickups. Anyways, thanks for watching. If this tutorial was helpful, leave a like. And if you want to follow along with my game's progress or want to keep up with any other tutorials I put out, consider subscribing. So see ya and have a good rest of your day.